Weird science
is the revolution.
Hello, you weirdos. Jim here, and this is my review for Ultimate X-Men #1, written and art by Peach Momoko, script adaptation from Zach Davison. He's a translator, but I think he's more of a cultural deal guy as well, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. And people are already fighting about this book. It's kind of depressing. So I realized that if I really want to get the clicks, everybody wants the clicks. All I have to do is make another video and put it out here. I hate this. This isn't X-Men. Go to heck. This is too much manga. I could just be a hater. And I could lie through my teeth and say I hate everything. And boom, I'd probably, go through the roof. I can't do that. I'm not going to wake up every morning to decide what I hate. I wake up every morning and read things and then come up with what I think is a somewhat educated opinion on it. And then I give you my score, which is just my opinion. Then I get yelled at. That's the game. That's the game. And if you can't tell, I'm a little frustrated. I'm a little upset at the whole game as it is. And so all that nonsense, push that aside. Listen to what I'm going to say. Realize it's my opinion. If you aren't going to buy the issue, then just forget about it. If you're going to buy it and you don't like it, then let me know why you didn't like it, why you liked it, whatever. But if you're not going to buy it and you just want to yell about things, please yell at somebody else. Yell at other people. I get yelled at enough by my wife and my kids. I don't need you yelling at me about something you didn't read. Yikes. Here we go. As I said, welcome to the review. This is a weird book. It really is. It doesn't feel like an X-Men book. Not one point in it does it feel like an X-Men book. And in fact, if I took off the cover of this and handed it to some random person that I barely know, I'm saying my kids, there's no way that they would know it's an X-Men book. They might say, oh, this is a neat manga. Oh, what's this? A manga with colors in there, whatever. And oh, no, it's an X-Men book. They'd be shocked. They wouldn't think it was. And so that's a problem. It really is. When you end up having the Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, those feel big, those feel new, those feel fresh in a way that feels classic as well. But they also feel like they're developing things in this overall Ultimate Universe that the maker has changed and all that. This book doesn't have that. There's a lot of things this book doesn't have. And it's something that's going to turn a lot of people off. A lot of people who will yell at me that this is not an X-Men book. Well, you know what? In a non-hating way, I can agree with you so far. But you are getting little hints. It's a quirky, niche book. I don't understand why it's coming out at this point. Maybe you should have established the, Ultimate Universe a little bit more first, then allow for a little bit of a wonky book. But here's the thing. The minute you put X-Men on the cover, it's got to be big. And it isn't. So I'm hoping, and I'm not going to tell you that this will last more than 6 issues, 5, 10. I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if it only lasts, a 5 or 6, whatever. But that might already be the plan too, because this gives you little hints at what's going on. And then maybe it'll lead to a bigger thing. If you look at the solicits coming up, there are some other characters involved. May Storm is a girl that is friends and schoolmates with Hiseko, seems to be infatuated with Storm. And I mean Storm in Africa, that's with Killmonger in the Black Panther book. So that's kind of a weird little connection, but also seems to have had powers too. So we'll see what that all is about. But in this issue, it's all about Hiseko, who is in middle school. She's graduating middle school. And if you think that this is going to be like a book where it's like sunshines and rainbows, is that what they say? Sunshines and applesauce, maybe is what they say. It's not. It actually, this has some dark moments, and probably darker than you'll ever expect, and darker than anything I've read from Marvel in quite some time. There are things that there's a certain thing that happens twice in this book that you're not allowed to say the word for on YouTube. You have to say they unlived the deal. Like, I hate saying that. So when we get to it, I'll just say, that word there, because that happens twice. It's shocking. But there's also feels. And I also feel like in this, you get the biggest thing that I love about manga is that you get good character work. You end up establishing the character. And because this book is so, small focused on the Hiseko, you do get that. But you start with the middle school graduation and Hiseko, who is Armor, and we'll see her become Armor in this. She shows up for graduation, but she hasn't been to school in a while. You don't know why at first. We find out, again, it's that word, of what happened to one of her friends after being bullied. But she shows up, and these girls come up to her, and they're like, "Oh, hey, here's this button this boy wants to give to you." And it's a Japanese thing. It's kind of a, confessing your love type of thing. He's right over there. And they look over, nobody's there. And even the girls, who we find out are kind of like being a bit bullyish, because the one runs back and the other, "I can't believe you actually talked to her. I thought that her depression would rub off on you." Like, they're not nice. But when they look, she's even surprised. This boy is gone. He's not there. But what happens is Seiko sees that there is a note that's on the button that says, "Meet me at the temple in the mountain behind the school. Our time has come, my friend." And then she looks at it and it's like sweating and all upset and friend. Like, she keeps looking at that friend bit, and you realize she has no friends. She does not have friends. So it's kind of sad already, but you can tell that she's a little taken aback, and she's going to go and see what this means. And when she does go, she gets on her bike and goes up to the temple. She's going in a way that looks like she's going not excited, like, "Oh my God, there's a boy who likes me." More of, who the heck is this? Like, this doesn't make sense. I don't have any friends. We'll find out that she did. Unfortunately, he's not around. And that's the deal. So she's going to go off, and she does go right off to the temple. She's sitting and waiting, and you end up seeing a progression where it almost looks like an origami deal. And then you see a boy suddenly appear, and she sees him. We're going to find out that this is Tsubasa, her friend, that did that bad thing to himself. He was getting bullied, and he ended up, doing that. And that's kind of why she hasn't been in school. That's why the girls that went up, the gossip girls, are like, "Oh my God, her depression's good." Well, she's depressed because of what happened to her friend. And we'll see that she kind of blames herself. And it's in a way that not necessarily blaming herself because she didn't protect Tsubasa. She kind of gave him some weird advice. Things happen. And then at the end, we even find out it's even more, dark, because it ends up, it looks like teachers were bullying this poor kid. And again, in all of this, when you go and review and read stuff, obviously there's going to be things that stick with you, your baggage you bring in, stuff that you go. One of the things that is my big thing, like one of the biggest things that I hate, is when kids get bullied, especially at school. The idea that they go off to school and how excited I used to think of, "I can't wait to get to school." I was never bullied, but I have seen that happen. And it's just, I hate the idea of kids, especially little kids, going somewhere that they feel like they should be safe. Everybody should have fun there. And it's the worst thing ever. It's a living hell. And it actually gets me a bit choked up at times talking about it. But you see Tsubasa. She says that we don't really know this yet, but after reading, you see. And so she kind of like double takes and then looks, and where Tsubasa was, there's now this shadowy figure. Now, one of the things that's going to affect my score is the shadowy figure starts talking in a squiggly lined font that drives me nuts. VC's Travis Lanham, I know what you're trying to do. I usually don't, diss on your lettering. Lettering is, I think people would agree, lettering is the idea that you should never notice it. But if you do, a lot of times, it's like when you have referees, umpires, things in sports. They should be seamless. When you recognize it's because they're doing a bad job, unfortunately. And this drove me nuts. But the shadowy figure starts talking to her. And as it goes on, you kind of get the feeling that it might be Tsubasa. But then as it's going on, I kind of started thinking, and this is where I kept thinking, and people talking to me when I did my initial reactions of, "Oh, who do you think is going to be on the team?" and things like that. And I think because of the age of Seiko here, Armor, and her friend May Storm that we're going to have, I think that I'm going towards almost like a New Mutants type kind of team. And because of that, I ended up, because this dark shadowy figure, it really throws off Shadow King type of vibes. That even connects with Storm too. So that's where I kind of get the X-Men feel. But I'm telling you, to get an X-Men feel, I have to really jump to some conclusions and kind of hope that things will happen or look to the future. It's not really in there, but that's how I get the play of this shadowy deal. And it really feels like it's trying to dupe or trying to sway Seiko, but I don't know what for. It doesn't ever really feel that evil, just kind of scary, but it does start to talk a little trash, but you almost get that idea that it might be Tsubasa. and it hands Seiko this charm. Now, this charm, it's armor. It's 100% the character armor. You end up seeing, it looks like it's like carved out of, ivory or jade or even wood, but you have the red armor and then a little figure in it. It's a really cool kind of charm look to represent armor, and says, hey, you forgot to have this. This is something that Tsubasa had given her before. Tsubasa would like you to have it again. And again, you kind of think that this shadowy figure might be Tsubasa, but then it starts getting dark and ends up saying, hey, Tsubasa was kind. He was always happy and smiling, so full of life until he died. And then you see this bullying, and you see it in like a manga sort of way. And this is where it starts feeling very much like a supernatural manga, even with that. And if you have read, this sort of thing, especially a supernatural type manga, school setting, it really fits in that genre more so than as an X-Men book. But you end up seeing, this kid's getting bullied, possibly by teachers, and Seiko gave him the advice of like, don't back off, don't run away. You have to stand up. There's never really great advice. You have that sitcom trope back in the day where a kid will come home, oh, Mom, I've been bullied. The mom says, I'm going to go to the teacher. And then the dad says, no, I'm going to teach him how to box in the backyard, that sort of thing. But in real life, it's not a sitcom. And there's a lot of back and forth of what is the best thing to do or whatnot. But that's the thing. She gave him this advice and then kind of left him be to kind of keep getting bullied. And then he ended up, doing that thing. And in this, the shadowy figure is trying to upset, it seems, Seiko and say, you're responsible. How can you sleep at night? All these. And she gets all upset. And as that's going on, this shadowy figure is kind of morphing. It's still horrific looking, but it's starting to get more, human features, as it then says, I quit running from my problem. My eyes are open. The time for sorrow is over. Now is the time for vengeance. It really seems like it's Tsubasa at this point. Still don't know, but ends up like disappearing then. You have Seiko closes her eyes. She opens them up, and then there's this little like totem. Looks like a straw man, looks a little Blair Witch, actually. And she goes over to check this out and then looks over, and there is the body in the air of her friend, and kind of a ghost and scary. And she freaks out and she runs away. She runs away and she says, I'm sorry. She's very upset about what happened to Tsubasa. Obviously, you're really centering at that point on that she has that charm. She has this armor charm. And as she's going, you do end up having just like horror vibes, even where you end up where a ghost, it might be of the mind, but of Tsubasa saying, why are you running away? You're the one who told me not to run. That might be just her thinking that. It's kind of a weird little look there. But as she's going, she's not paying attention. And she is heading. And again, I know that people are going to say bad things about the art. I like it, but I like manga. It's a very manga-esque. But there are little things that I think are better than what people give it credit for from what I've seen. Where she is thinking about her friend. Oh, my God, I just saw my friend. And he's a ghost. And she's looking back at where the temple was. She's heading where you can see to an intersection. There is like walls around, but you can see the headlights. There is a car coming. It's a very good setup scene that she is about to get hit by a car. And she's not even going to know about it. And she does. And she's crying at this point saying, it wasn't my fault. I'm sorry, Tsubasa. She goes out into this intersection. She gets hit. But she doesn't, because that's where the charm activates. And this is where it's subtle, but maybe it shouldn't be. The idea, is this her mutant gene coming in and starting up? It's about that age, right? She's in middle school. It's about that deal. But, or is it a supernatural thing with the charm? Because she has the charm as well, but boom, there's armor. Armor comes to looking like a Shogun warrior kind of deal and ends up crushing the car so that it doesn't end up hitting the Seiko. Now, this is different than what we've seen regularly for armor. Armor is usually a thing that goes, around Seiko, but able to control it. You end up where she punches, it punches. This seems more sentient itself and is able to do things and is there to protect her and ends up bashing the car. This poor guy who just was driving down the street, this guy ends up really hurt in the hospital, and they don't understand. The authorities don't understand because this car here is just in the middle of the road and got destroyed. It didn't hit anything, or did it? You don't know. It's just there in the middle. And you even have a news report that says they're looking for a girl because the guy, maybe before he went to a coma, maybe RIP, he said there was a girl, but nobody sees it. There's no girl there. So what's going on? The problem is when Aseko ends up getting hit, or at least armor protects her from it, her diploma from school, because she hasn't gotten home from school yet. She went right to the temple. It flew out of the basket of her bike, and it's out there. It's kind of evidence out there that she was in the area at least, and they are looking for a girl. So she realizes this the next morning. In the meantime, though, when she goes home, she's kind of up all night looking at this crazy charm, this amulet. This is what did it, what not. And this is very weird. I don't understand. I do like, too, after the car gets destroyed, you end up having the armor deal, like, kind of make sure, like, almost like, gently like pushing Seiko towards, like, make sure she's okay, and then waves goodbye and disappears. Very cute, but very odd. But you have Seiko's like, oh my God, I got to go get my what's it called? My diploma, because if they find this, it's evidence. And she does go to that intersection. You have a couple gossip ladies out, like they do, like my wife ends up, I heard he was drunk. That drunk driver, oh my God, definitely drugs, this other lady's saying. So she goes back to the temple, and there's the shadowy figure again. And it actually knows, like, oh, you're here for this. And actually has gone and got the diploma. So you didn't want to leave evidence, did you? And then really ends up saying, hey, you guilty conscious, you're back, and come with me. This will be easier if you join me. Now, again, there's that weird idea. Obviously, this looks very nefarious and all things going on, but it's a weird play here. It's a weird world without powers, without X-Men. So what all does this mean? And maybe it's something, seems very bad, but maybe it's kind of, we're seeing from a different angle or whatnot. I'll give Aseko a lot of credit, though. She was never, when she ended up running, it was because she ended up seeing the ghost of her dead friend. When it's just she's pretty tough. I mean, she's sassy, she is, and she says, this isn't about Tsubasa's death at all. That's your excuse. Why don't you tell me what you really want from me? And this guy, why would you say that? Oh my goodness. And says, I only wanted to help you work through your trauma. You play the victim, hide scared in your space, in your shell. No longer I'll tear it out of your smug little shell, you traitor, and starts getting angry and actually goes to attack Seiko, but we know what's going to happen then because we've seen it. Armor comes out and looks bad butt and ends up, boom, going around her to protect her. And now it seems like almost like a symbiotic type thing that's getting shot at Seiko. She actually like ducks and covers her head, her ears, and her eyes, and Armor goes at it and ends up grabbing this ghost and pretty much just squashes it out. Just really seems like it squashes it out to the point where its eyeball is going to pop. And it looks like it takes care of, this deal, and says, though, here's a little secret. My curse is already in motion, and the first victim is someone you know, saying to Seiko, and she's angry. And then when all this goes, she ends up like, shut up, and actually throws the charm, the armor charm, and then the armor dissipates. But it's sad here, and it's a weird, subtle deal. Again, I didn't expect this in an X-Men book, and you might not like it in an X-Men book. But the ghost of her friend Tsubasa is there and picks up this charm and says it's too late. And that's so sad to me because how I took that is this kid was bullied and could have used this, but it wasn't available to him. He wasn't there. He didn't have an armor around him to make him strong against bullies. And I thought that was a really touching moment. Again, something that you might not want in an X-Men book, but it really kind of got to me again. But I said that bullying really does get me. And, it's sad. And she's at this point crying. Her phone rings and you end up the ghost of Tsubasa says you should answer that. We don't know who calls though, but says, it's been a while. You were good friends with Tsubasa, right? So you know that teacher, right? Tsubasa's coach. Well, he did the same thing. He ended up, doing that thing I'm not allowed to say too, I guess, from the guilt of it. Or was it that this ghost was, haunting him like he kind of was doing because you ended up having the ghost say the curse is out there and it's going to be somebody that's going to go down, if that's the teacher or not. It says the rumors were that he was bullying him, but it seems like that might be. And you end up and you see it. That's the thing. Again, I was actually shocked there wasn't an editor's note saying, if you have thoughts and stuff, call these things, because this is pretty graphic and pretty gruesome. But then she goes over and you end up where she's going to go and get that charm again, the armor charm that she threw. And on that, it's just weird. This might be her mother. It's just a weird play here, the way that it is, and not saying who it is, because then the person's like, hello, are you there? Because she's not answering. She's kind of just like taken aback, and that's where you end up going. And she says, what the hell is going on? Something unimaginable is happening, and you end up seeing, kind of a fog, a black thing kind of dissipate out too. But it says, it feels like all our sins, all the dark secrets we hid away, some cruel power has torn off the lid, let it all out. What is that shadow? Why do I keep feeling the energy protecting me? What do you want from me? And she's holding that armor thing. And this all can also be that idea of this world being recreated, changed. All this stuff is messing up stuff. But like I said, I think that it reads better as a manga. I think it reads better if you're just want to read. And that's the thing. A lot of times when you're reading some big two or even indie stuff in the US, there's not a lot of things even like this where there's a horror book that involves middle school girls. That's something you have, a million of. This is something that it's not going to throw manga readers. And so even if you say it's not a manga, Jim, it's not a manga. Holy crap, you're reading it left to right, you idiot. That sort of thing. It's not just that. It's the feel and what I think a lot of manga readers would be used to, where we wouldn't even bat an eye, where other people might be thrown off. But said this in the initial thoughts video that I did. If you haven't seen that, I said, if you read this and you've never read a manga and you're like, I kind of like this, maybe it throws you off a little, but you're like, I kind of like the cut of the jib. I kind of think this is neat. And why I ended up, I'll tell you right now, where a lot of people ended up starting to read indie because they were frustrated with the big two. What happened with me is I tried to do that, but it wasn't different enough for me. And what happened is, and I think you would maybe agree, when I was sick of the big two and went to look at indie stuff, a lot of the indie stuff was just by writers of the big two, just doing indie stuff. And I just needed to break. And that was where I ended up right at the shutdown, starting to read manga, and I fell in love with it immediately. It was something that I was really worried that I couldn't get the right to left, in the black and white, all that, every hurdle that people say, it's not as bad or as daunting as you might think. Usually those hurdles, they're of the mind. They're put there by yourself because you don't really want to get involved. You want to have an excuse, things like that, because you're kind of scared. I mean, it is kind of weird to say that, but you are like, it's something new. Why do but it's fun and I love it. And so when I read this, I, see the tropes, I see the little things going on. And I do think that my score is affected by that, but I can't end up giving it a perfect score, obviously. Though I know there'll be perfect scores for this from those reviewers, because when you're a reviewer, there's a lot of times I feel it too when I'm doing it. I don't, go on it, but I would have that, I should give this a really high because I want people to try it. And I go, no. You can't go that route. You can't play that game. People do, but I don't. But yeah, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. And you may even think that's too high because that's how things are on the YouTubes, it seems. But no, I got a little frustrated with the lettering for the Ghost Steel. But all in all, it has to get points off because it doesn't feel like an X-Men book. When it does, I'll give it full credit. If it does, maybe it won't. But at this moment, it doesn't feel like enough of an X-Men book. And that's a problem, especially as I said at the beginning, the X-Men, that's a big thing. You have to feel like an X-Men book. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I hope that people give it a shot. Don't yell at me. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. You can tell me, but it's just weird. And maybe it's me reading into it, but it feels like some people want to announce that they don't like this, like that makes something go, I don't know, makes me worse, you better, whatever. You can't make me worse. I'm the bottom of the barrel. Ask my wife. But yeah, I hope that people give this a shot and let me know if you do. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you don't. But yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. This ended up still being long. I almost lost my voice, but it's one of those books that kind of, it's cool to talk about. Hopefully people are a little open-minded with it. But that is it. Thanks, everybody. I'll be doing more reviews this week. So if you don't like this one, maybe there's something that you will. I don't know. And I'll talk to you all later.
Weird science is the revolution.